Well, hello friends, Mark Holmes here, and as always I want to thank you guys for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Woo Sports Report. Without you guys, this literally does not work. Today I'm doing something I really didn't feel like doing, but hey, you got to do what you got to do. Hot water heater. It's been in the house, I think probably original with the house, and you can see it's got some leaks here and leaking on the floor, and it's just antiquated and old. It's actually an 80-gallon hot water heater, so we're replacing with another 80-gallon hot water heater. The good news is they're now more energy efficient. They have actually more insulation around them. They're actually a little bit bigger than they used to be, but changing a hot water heater electric one is really not that bad. What you have is our wiring right here, which is a 220 circuit right here. We're going to turn off the power at the panel for this, so we have no electricity. And while we're here, we've got all kinds of junk in this room. Our gate valve here, it's been so long, is literally frozen up. So we're going to actually replace this. So what I'm going to have to do is turn off the water in the house and drain the system. I'm going to drain this all out. But before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut this and put a new shutoff valve. So that way, I have a new valve and I can turn the water on the rest of the house. We just won't have hot water for a while. Now, to make life easier, this is not like the old days when I used to have to do plumbing. You'll see here, I'm old school and I love everything copper. In fact, when I first got this house, the hot water heater used to be right here in the middle of the room. I actually moved it over here so that way I'd actually have more space to, use the room, put a refrigerator and stuff in here. But everything used to be copper, and you used to have to sweat it and everything else. You get your flux and your silver your silver solder, and go through and do these joints. Well, today, now everything is going to PEX, which is great stuff, and it's like they have shark bites and things. So to make life easy, this piece right here, I'm going to end up cutting this off up here, and the new one will just slide right on place. It's just simple. It's really, really simple. And it's great because you can actually reuse. They're expensive. This supply tube is about $15, but it makes life a lot easier than having to sweat in like we used to and screw those on there. And also, too, we have our, hopefully I got my gate valve. That's extra fitting there. Here we go. To make life easy, we have ourselves a nice gate valve. That's a shark bite as well. And so I have my tubing cutter right here that we'll put onto the tubing, cut that, boom, pop that sucker right off, and we're good to go. In the meantime, I'm going to go turn off the water and start cutting this so it'll drain. All right, so we have the water turned off here in the house, and we're going to go ahead and open that up. Whoop, need to tighten that up a little more. All right, we got that a little tighter. We're going to open this up, and hopefully the water will drain out. Now, it takes a long time for the drain out, but once I cut the supply up here and I open up the relief valve over there, the pressure valve, that'll allow some more air into it, but I've got a hose that's outside, so we're going to have some time to wait. So here's my cutter. See this? It's kind of cool because it opens up, hinges, closes shut, and then you have a direction arrow which tells you which way to spin. So we're just going to take this right here, snap it close. Well, that'll be a blooper. All right, let's try that again. Let's see. I think you were this way. All right, so we have our tubing cutter right here, and that's locked in there. All we're going to do is just turn this, and eventually it's going to tighten up on it until it pops. Hopefully. Sounds like it's got air in it. There we go. Bam. And that's how you cut copper, which is becoming a rarity because now everybody is using, of course, PEX, which is a lot easier, it's a lot cheaper. And the good thing about PEX is if it freezes, it'll expand and contract without breaking. can't say that about copper, because if you've got an old house like my parents' house, where the pipes are under the house and it's not insulated, you understand what it's like in the wintertime. Pipes freeze up and they bust, and you got a leak when everything thaws out. So our hot water heater is now free here. We got the power turned off. We're going to go ahead and disconnect the electricity on it, and then we can just wait for this thing to drain. And if I drank natter days, it'd be a good time to get a natter day. All right, so here's our new one. And see, here's the amazing thing about if you're doing an electric hot water heater. There's only 2 wires in here. And see, this is the difference between a normal circuit. The way a normal circuit works is you have a hot, which is black, okay? Now, understand, if you got a black, a blue, or a red wire, that signifies that it's hot. That's the one that's going to shock the crap out of you. And what you have to understand about electricity is you're creating a full circuit. So the hot comes through on one end and it completes the circuit on the neutral. But you only got 2 wires here, and you got a red and black, which means they're both hot. Well, your ground acts as your neutral. So what happens is we'll go through and we'll put our wire clamp that'll go right in here. Our main wire will come in, and you'll see this green screw. Green is always for ground. So that becomes your neutral that carries the completed circuit. And then this is one hot, and this is a hot. So that's why it's a 240 volt, because 120 plus 120 is 240. So that's how this is going to work. And other than that, we've got, of course, our hot water coming out, our cold line going in. We have our pressure relief valve that's right here. And this is made so that way, if the pressure builds up too much, it doesn't become a guided missile. Because before they found out about doing these things, what would happen is it would overheat and get to the point where it would explode. So this keeps it from exploding. And if you have a hot water heater, as long as the body's in good shape and you find out it's not working right, what it probably is the elements. And you can buy the elements actually for about $25, $30 and replace them. Of course, you have to drain it out the tank and everything. Now, this is important. This is really, really important when you're doing a hot water heater. I'm trying to get in where the light is. When you hook this thing up, okay, after you've got it put together, you got your wiring, everything connected, okay, you've turned on the water, there's no leaks and everything else, that's great. The instinct, of course, is let me go flip on the breaker. Stop right there. Stop. Don't go any further, because what you need to make sure is there is no air in the tank. This is key, okay? So you need to actually go turn on the water, turn on the hot water for about 5 minutes and just let it run. Just let it run, because that'll get all of the air pockets out of here. Because if you don't, if there's an air pocket in here, because you have an element here and an element here. There's 2 elements. There's air pocket. It's on. The element will heat up and heat up and heat up and burn out. And you don't want to have a burned out element when you first put in a hot water heater. So that's what we have to do. So fortunately, this one is actually draining really well. This is great news. I've had ones where it just trickles. Just trickles. And you're sitting there like, well, we can go for lunch. We can go for a beer. We can come back tomorrow. But this one, she's doing good. Okay. All right, we're just going to wait for that to finish draining out. And we're going to get our dolly, and we're going to move this hours off. And here's what I'm talking about. Now, because this is a 240 and a hot water heater, you're looking at it and you're saying, but that's a white wire. That's a neutral. Yeah, that would be the case, except when you do a hot water heater. What happens, of course, is this becomes a hot as well. What you really should do is you should actually put a little piece of black tape on there. And what that tells an electrician is, this is a hot wire, even though it's a neutral. Sometimes when you do your 3-way wires and things, you'll end up using one that's your traveler and things, or you need an extra circuit and things. So you end up letting people know that this one will shock the crap out of you. So we're just sitting here waiting and waiting and waiting for the hot water heater here to finish draining. Now, what I was going to do, I was actually going to put my shutoff valve on here now, but I decided to wait because this one has our water supply on this side, and this has the hot side over here. So what I want to do is I actually want to put this in alignment first and make sure that if I need to cut a little bit more off of this, I can cut it off of it, and that way we're good to go. Okay, So, but we're going to line up, but I don't want to have to bend the coupling and stuff too much. I want to go ahead and do it. And since it's draining and all that, and we have no hot water, we just go without some water for a little bit. We'll make sure that it's put in perfect alignment. Now, I could put a drain pan underneath of it, and probably should, but I'm not going to, because this is a concrete floor. It's a concrete floor, and technically there's a floor drain that's over here. So if it actually does leak a little bit, it's okay, because I'll know about it. It'll be able to drain out. Right, it's drained out. See, look, I can actually move it now. So the tank itself, what's happened is it's been leaking up in here, so it's actually full of water inside on the insulation and stuff. This is actually a hazard, because you can see all the water. So we're going to make a little bit of a mess here on the carpet, but we don't have any choice. We got to get this thing up out of here. You ain't got to go home, but you got to get the hell out of here. Wah! Thank God it fits through the door. Okay. All right. We are in here. Thank goodness.
Where's the tail?
So, it was outside there.
I didn't see it outside.
Okay. Tell you what, let's put this on here to get the dripping water. I don't want to get my new hot water heater wet. Okay. Let's hope that. Oh, it's gonna be tight. Just enough. Okay. Good. And we line up almost perfectly for it. Okay, so we're gonna get supply tubes. These are a little bit longer than what we needed, unfortunately, and they didn't have any shorter ones. We may need to go back and get some shorter ones for this one, or offset it some so we can go like this, which is a possibility. I could probably cheat it over just a little bit more this way, and that way I can go kind of like this. Still going to be a bit tight, but we'll make it work. Actually, the other one's shorter. Actually, I think this one's shorter, which is perfect. Yes! Alright, so this one's shorter. Great. That's good then. Okay. And this one, boom. We're going to have the same issue, but what we can do is we can turn it a little bit more this way, give us ourselves a little more room. All right, so we're going to fit this in here. I'm going to end up cutting the pipe up here so I can make this connection, and this just slides right on, which is great. We've got our shutoff valve over here that will slide up here like that, boom, and we'll be able to make our connection right here and put that on. So we need to use a little bit of pipe dope, or if you have Teflon tape, right in there before we tighten that up and make sure it's good and tight. So I'm going to go get that, and I need to get a wire clamp here for my electrical wire. So I'll be right back. All right, so what I'm going to do first, I'm going to go ahead and get this cut and get my shutoff valve up on here so that way I can stop this from dripping. So I'm going to cut this up a little bit higher. And as you can see, my main shutoff doesn't get this off completely, or it's still some backwater in the house. So when you turn on all the faucets after the water being in here and drained out, you're going to get a lot of as the air bubbles go out. So here's the thing. This is our gate valve that we're putting in here. Pull that on off of there. And here is our screw-in piece on here. Now, you've got to either put Teflon tape, but I like to use Pro Dope. Why do I like to use Pro Dope? It's just I don't like the tape. You know, it just scares me. It's just something about tape. I can put this dope on here and I can see that I've gotten all the joints filled in there real good. Okay. Then we're going to screw this together. Boom. We're going to make sure this sucker is tight. So, there's a story about monkey wrench, how it got its name. Monkeys don't actually use wrenches, okay? So there's a guy who came up with this wrench. And apparently his nickname was Monkey. And so what people would say is, hey, go get Monkey's wrench. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true, but that's what I've been told. All right, so this is a shark bite fitting. Inside of this fitting, see, this white part goes inside of the copper pipe, or if it's PEX pipe, you can use this on a multitude of things. There's these little teeth in there that when you push it in, it locks it in place, and then there's a rubber bearing or washer that's in here. When it gets pushed into it, it seals it, and you can't pull it apart unless you actually have a little tool. It's a little plastic thing. It's about 99 cents. You push it on here, this whole thing will come off so you can reuse it. And this becomes better because unlike the old copper fittings and stuff in here that have corroded, this is plastic and it doesn't break down. At least that's what we're told. It just leaks chemicals. All right, so this basically just slides right up in here and you'll feel it engage. That's it, it's done. And you can turn it, so I can turn it to where I want it. Now this end, we don't need to put pipe dope on it because you see it's got a washer in there. So we're gonna put that right up on there. And then we're gonna take our wrench, we're gonna tighten that up. Started. And make sure, one thing. Here's what you're going to notice. You have one shutoff valve. One. And that's the water going in. You don't need a shutoff valve with it going out. That goes to the cold side. Okay, so this is my water supply coming in. I've got it hooked to the blue one. This one over here, it's the wet one. It's the wet one. The wet one means it's hot water coming out. And that means this is feeding the whole house. And so I'm going to cut this down here so I have a little bit of play, but not too tight that I can't get it tightened up on here. And of course, we're going to save the copper because we can always take that to the scrap metal dealer. Although just right now, with the economy being the way it is, it's not a whole lot of money for copper. So you may actually want to just get like a bucket and just fill it up with copper. And then once the economy starts taking off, and then China wants all our scrap metal, it'll go up to about $4 a pound for scrap metal. not bad, because you get a bucket full, you might have 50 pounds in there. All right, so this, again, shark bite. Did we get in there? I think we got in there. Okay, there we go. Tighten that up on there. And then we're going to turn the water on. That's it. Oh, got to do my electrical wiring too. Now, what did I do with the, here it is. Let's get this, we're going to get this water that dripped up here. Now, there's a couple of things I've learned about plumbing and electrical. Plumbing, shit goes downhill. Always. Shit never, ever goes uphill unless you have a pump. So if you're doing waste lines, you got to have a fall to it. Or else it'll sit in the pipe and back up. Second thing, plumbing and electricity, plumbing or water and electricity don't mix. Well, they mix, but not in a good way. You don't want to mix them, because if you do, you could have some problems there. So that's why we're getting the water off of there. Just going to put our wire clamp on here so that way it can't be pulled out. There we go. That's our wire clamp right there. Now our wire can go right on in there. Oh. Tighten up the clamp. There we go. Okay. Just enough. Okay. I'm going to just adjust this just a little bit more, make it a little easier. There we go. Get our ground wire bent. Put it in there to make life easier. Get our ground wire tightened up on here. We've wrapped that sucker around there so it can't get off of there. side cutters or alignments. If I had a net driver, it'd be easier too, but side cutters are okay. Okay, now let me show you exactly what I got over here. All right, so see, I've got my ground wire right in there, okay? I've got my white, which I'll put to the red one together with our wire nut. I'll put the black on there. It doesn't really matter on there because they're both hot. It's just that I like consistency. And one thing I like to do, when I do my electrical, you don't have to, but it just makes me feel better, is I actually like to start twisting the wires together to make sure that they're lined up good. See how that is? It makes it bite better when you put the wire nut on it. And it kind of makes it a little bit easier. And make sure that you don't overstrip that so you have some of the bare wire hanging out. You don't want that. My hair is actually not so bad today. I'm letting my hair, I've got the Rona hair. I've never had hair this long before, so I have no idea what it's going to do. And I figure this will probably be the last chance I have before I die that it'll be able to be this long. So it's now or never. Wonder if I can get it long enough to get a ponytail. Wouldn't that be crazy? Okay. So now, see, we got those on there real good. Now, we're going to fold them and get them up underneath of here. So that way, we can close the box up. Okay. That's the wet one. Got the wet one. Now let's get the brother. There. See, we got our wires in there. This will slide right up underneath that. And we'll put this in here. Boom. Tighten it up. And the electrical part is done. And then we'll go turn the water on. Turn the water back on. I've got the faucet over here on, which I got to turn off because we drained the system. Now remember, what you got to do is you need to go through and bleed all the lines. You can hear right now. Actually, you can't because it hasn't. Oh, I don't have the water on it. Duh. Okay. You can hear the toilet over here filling up, which means the cold water is on. But now we're going to go back in here. And we're going to open this up and we're going to listen to see if we hear. Okay, well, we hear the water going in there. If we had a leak, because this is beginning to get pressurized, you'll hear a hiss. And of course, you can turn the water off right here. So we've got our gate valve that's in place, so we're good to go that way. Which is nice. It's nice being able to have these fittings. It's really not that difficult to do a hot water heater. And this is one of those jobs. Now, the hot water heater itself, you know, it's not, at least electric ones aren't that bad. Gas, if you don't know what you're doing, I would recommend getting a plumber if you have a gas one. Because gas, of course, can blow up if you don't have it vented right. Electric ones really aren't that bad to change, and it's a project that if you have a little bit of skills, you can do, because you see what I've done right here? Plumber would have charged you about $800 plus the hot water heater to come out and do this. And right now, it's only been about an hour and a half worth of time, and most of the time it's waiting for this thing to drain. So, what we're going to do, we're going to let this thing fill up, check and make sure there's no leaks, and then remember what I told you, let it run for about 5 minutes. I know you don't want to waste water, but you've got to make sure there's no air bubbles. Can you hear? Can you kind of hear a little bit of that? That's the air bubbles in there, and we can't have the air bubbles in there when we turn the power on. Now, one other thing we still have to do, over here, your pressure release valve, okay? Don't have a lot of light over here, but what we have to do is, the old pressure relief valve was on the top, so I was able to save this piece of copper. I'm going to cut this, and I got a shark bite too that's a screw-in fitting. We'll put that in there, and that's the pressure relief. So if it gets too much pressure, it'll shoot the water on the floor. That's okay, because Better to shoot the water on the floor than to blow up the house. All that's left now is turn the power on. We've got it drained out, and we'll just sit there and wait and see if we have hot water. All right, so I turned the power on and actually had to go run to Staples to get my sign. So it's been about 45 minutes, but I actually hear the water running. I think the wife's taking a shower, and it feels hot. Yeah, that's hot. Let's check in the bathroom. Let's see. That's hot. Yeah, so we changed our hot water heater. It's working pretty good. Wife's already taken a shower. Forgot that I changed the hot water heater. I'm Mark Holmes, and thanks for watching.